everyone. Welcome to the Lapid Monkey Music Show. Today I have on High Desert Queen, Ryan Garney. How are you?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me.
But to be honest, I'm newer to digging your music and probably over the course of the past year. I've been really digging you guys, and you guys have a new split out. Also, looks like.
Yeah, I really
I thought we
appreciate
could
that. Yeah.
talk about that. And you're on tour with Sasquatch, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's been a good run. Even though we still consider ourselves being pretty new to all this because we kind of formed 2020 and right when the world shut down. So we've just kind of really been getting going when we can. And yeah, we just released a split with our good friends, Blue Heron. They're out of Albuquerque. We got a chance to play some shows with those guys, and we connected and just hit it off. Really good guys, really good musicians. And Jad, their front man, approached me about the potential of releasing a split with them, and we jumped at the opportunity because we definitely love what they're doing. And ironically, we had 3 songs that didn't make our debut record that
Yeah.
we're still very happy about. They just time constraints on vinyl these days, so they just were on the cutting board floor, and we were happy to get a chance to use those songs so they could see the light of day.
I'm going to say it's interesting. I want to step back in a minute, step back to the beginning of the band because it's pretty neat how fast you guys got together. But I want to, on a side note, when we're talking about this splits nowadays, I think for a while before vinyl was picking up, a split was kind of weird because there wasn't really much to split on because it wasn't much physical product because obviously everything was digital. So a split on digital is nothing. It's just a shared thing.
Yeah,
But now with vinyl being bigger again, it actually supports doing splits again more without it looking as what I mean,
yeah, and
as
it's
niche.
interesting because I've discovered quite a few bands on splits. I think back in the day, maybe late '90s, early 2000s, I kind of got into the whole split thing because you find them on, it was CDs or whatever,
Right.
or
Right.
it was kind of before well, it was clearly before the digital explosion of like streaming music. And ironically, one of the first splits I ever found um, was Nebula and Lowrider that Jad from Blue Heron,
Yeah.
he has record labels now. He's in charge of Blues Funeral. He's involved in Magnetic Eye Records, and of course also involved in Ripple. But at the time, the name escapes me, the label he had at the time, but he actually is the one that put that together. And
Oh,
so
really?
it's like kind of all come full circle. And I didn't know that until I was on a different podcast with him, and he's talking about it, and my mind was blown. But yeah, the splits it's cool, and I really dig what Ripple's doing with the Turn to Stone idea of kind of just pairing these
Mhm.
up and coming bands that have just kind of started to make a name for themselves or are still trying, and it's pretty cool. And we were really lucky to be we're chapter 8. We're the 8th installment of their Turn to Split series,
Really?
and I've heard a lot of rumors of what's to come on those splits. So it's really cool what they're doing.
I think it's great. I think it's kind of like it's kind of stupid. This is a nerd to me, like sci-fi. You like to do like a slingshot and like space. Like we're out of fuel. But if we do this rotational slingshot, it's like. But I always think like when a band does a split, like it's slingshots, to like it keep propelling each other to a newer audience, and then that thing kind of helps. Like you know what I mean? If you do it
Yeah,
right,
it's
it's
exactly
kind
what
of
it does. And we realize that as a band, like um, it's kind of like a sample, right? So people got to get a taste of what we are. Maybe some people, who got it to listen to Blue Heron because we think we mix well. We'll dig what we're doing, and vice versa. We're all about elevating the
yeah.
scene as much as trying to elevate ourselves. And it was interesting. I was listening to a good friend of mine. You mentioned Sasquatch earlier. Uh,
Yeah.
Talking to a good friend of mine, Craig Riggs, the drummer of Sasquatch, and he sings in Kind and sang in Road Saw. Talking to him about how when we were all starting doing music, back for me about 20 years ago, for him even more
Yeah.
so. It was all about getting that record contract. That's like what it was all about. Man, you
Hmm.
just get that and we're set. Well, that's kind of gone now because that getting a record contract I mean, it's cool. It helps you distribute your music and it gives you like the reputation, but it's not what it once was where you're signing a contract and you're getting all this money and stuff, right? And so it's just it's become this elevating of everybody in the scene is what we really is what you'd like to do. It's not about the competition of like I want to get that contract before they do or whatever. It's all about being a big family of musicians, and the split really brings that together because you're being released with another band,
Right.
and you kind of become a part of this whole Turn to Stone series of all the other bands that have been involved and all that to come. It just makes the family grow, and I love that. That's
Yeah.
something I'm huge about. So when Jad asked me, it was a no brainer. I was like, I really want to be a part of this.
Well, I think splits only work with genres that help themselves. Like you got the early, like the Will of the Desert or stoner rock, and you got the punk, and you got the metal. Those are the scenes that are do it yourself, and a lot of the music overlaps. I mean, a lot of people are just fans of all the same music. But I'm saying if you do it on the genre, like Top 40
Mm-hmm.
can't do that because no one's going to do a Pink song against a Madonna song, not even for
Right.
friends or not, just because financially it wouldn't make sense.
Correct.
Now, and they wouldn't want to, and maybe those artists get along, but I'm saying you wouldn't want to do, and there may have been one or two big artists that may have done this. I think maybe like Zombie may have done something with Cooper, like you know what I'm saying. But
Right.
overall, artists are not going to do that in that field. They're their own camps and whatever. Whereas the genre you're in, it is very family. Like I just talked to the singer from Sasquatch on not that long ago, maybe end of last year. I had him on.
Good old
You know,
Keith.
yeah, he's fun.
Mm-hmm.
I had a good talk with him. But the point is, it's all very family oriented with you guys. Which is nice. You talk to one artist and they help the other one out. Um,
But
it's a,
it's great. It's great because that trickles over to even when you go to the show. I swear, the metal fans or the stoner fans or whatever, the
yeah,
hard rock fans, they all look scary, but they're the most inviting, nice.
it is the nicest group of people you're gonna find.
They understand that the bands are working and that they are going to support and buy merch, and it's a beautiful thing, man. As soon as High Desert Queen got going, because I had never really been in a band, and I had bands way back, like I'm talking way back when I was in college. Um, and like kind of like grunge rock bands that I was playing in that we just were fun at the time, and we
Yeah,
did well in San Antonio and the Texas area, but that's kind of fizzled out. But as soon as Hydrogen Queen kind of got going, when we could start playing live shows again, uh, immediately I saw the scene and how it reacts to each other, and then I got it. All of a sudden, I'm meeting like heroes of mine, like the Sasquatch Boys, who I've listened to.
yeah,
I consider them top one of my top five favorite bands of all time. And then
yeah,
I meet them at a random show. I was at Psycho Las Vegas. Just one of the bands to see was them. I flew out there with my wife and my brother. We were like, hey,
yeah,
we got to see Sasquatch. I can't wait. I ended up talking to them, and they recognized me from the music video we had just released, Mountain versus the Quake. And we got to talking, and it was one of those like, hey, man, we should tour together. I'm like, cool, that would be amazing. And
yeah,
never thinking that's going to like come to light. Maybe I was like, empty gesture, but still feels really cool to hear it. And then no, a few months later, Cass hits me up like, hey, so what dates are good for you? And I was like, oh man, we're doing this, and then it trickles over to uh, playing festivals here in Texas and together with all these bands and meeting another hero of mine, Mario Lally from Fatso Jetson and Yawning Man, and then them asking us to do a tour together in last October, and then here we just did a 6-week tour with them in Europe,
wow.
and it's
That's pretty
been a
good for a new
fun.
band too, because I think one of the things that's hard and especially at a huge level, especially being a band your size, and even Sasquatch, like you need to tour to support yourself. And if you don't
Right.
tour, it's really because there's no money in albums anymore besides merch. So
Nope.
at this point, after COVID, kind of bands were touring steady or on and off, were doing okay. Sometimes they do like on and off day jobs, but then COVID came and it kind of killed everybody. So a lot of artists have been struggling to go back on the road again because they had to take day jobs, and I think they're afraid to give them up or have jobs that are that flexible. And
Yeah, and
that's a good
I
thing that
found
you're getting a lot of offers right now.
yeah, it's like I said, we've been very, very fortunate. And I think that we're also very fortunate that we're in a place that we can do this. Like we're like, hey, let's take this tour. I mean, 6 weeks, we did 34 shows in 36 days in Europe. That was insane. I mean, it was the most exhausting, fun thing I've ever done. You know, like it was crazy. But we were able to do it. We're all in a position where we're able to do it. We weren't we weren't sure how it was going to work out financially, but it worked out very, very well to be able to split with another band like Fatso Jetson and Mario,
Yeah,
who's been doing it for decades. So I'm just like taking notes from the master and how to
to enjoy it.
make this work, you know, and but we have jobs that allow us to do certain things, you know. Taking that kind of time off from work, it's a lot, but
Yeah,
like my full-time job is I'm a teacher, so I have summers off, and so I did take the last month off of school, which I had to go tell my principal I was doing this, and he was just kind of like, excuse me, you're doing what? But I had I had PTO days that accrue, and he's like, yeah man, go for it. So it was cool. And like
that's hard because it's gonna become a point now. The more success we get, you can be like on the cusp of it.
yeah, I know,
How long you been a teacher for? How long you been a teacher for?
20 years now.
Oh, you're in a good year on the road. You'll be like the burnout from being a teacher. You're like, I'm ready to go on the road. I'm done.
Believe me, I am always ready to go on the road. So, I mean, basically, like when these bands are asking,
Yeah,
even Sasquatch, we said yes before we had dates, you know, and then it just all happened. We went on a 2 week run with them, and one of them was over spring break, so I had those days off, you know, as a teacher, so it was fine. But then my guitar player, he has his own business, and then and our bass player is his daughter, and she works for him, so they're able to kind of work that out. And then my drummer is a full-time musician, so this is what he does.
so
He's a studio work musician, and then of
I
course
think
we pay on the road, so it works out.
it's important. I think people need to understand that because I drill this and I say every almost every episode because hopefully just newer, different influxes. That artists aren't just sitting on a bus anymore, and that went away a long time ago to begin with, and that's kind of the show started. But these artists are juggling schedules, and you know it's not even about profit half the time, if any. It's more about eating bad food just to play your music on the road. So if they're out there, you want to go out and see them. You want to buy the shirt.
Absolutely.
The profit is so small of the shirt because the venue gets a hunk of it. It costs to bring the shirt, the gasoline to tow the shirt. Like
Oh
there's so much cost, but the tiny profit, the shirts and those swag help. So don't complain. Support your favorite bands, man. I just want to put it out there.
yeah.
Like it's a
Well,
hustle
it's
for an artist nowadays.
yeah, because it's interesting the amount of people that'll be like, "Oh man, you're going to Europe for 6 weeks." Like you did it, you know. And in my mind, I'm like, I did do it. Like I've always wanted to do
Like
this,
if I
you know.
break even, I did it as a musician. Is what the really phrase
Exactly.
is.
And people are like, you still gonna teach, or are you just doing this now? I'm like, well,
I
if I
have
want to
to.
make any money, I'm gonna have to still work,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And that's how all of it is. And going back to your point about like what COVID did to a lot of bands, it's been rough. So the super elite bands, the bands that were filling up arenas, they're still fine. But those were so few anyway. But the bands that were like the 3,000 venue to 500 to 3,000 venue bands really hurt because
Especially if they're
they
making
weren't
that leap. They're just starting to make the leap. It just knocked them back down like 10 years.
right. Because a lot of them, you know, when you're playing venues like that, you're not making it rich, but you can sustain and
Right.
be a full-time musician. And then COVID forced people to like have to do something else. And some of them are like, some bands have been very forthright. I've talked to them about like doing things. I'm
Yeah.
like, hey man, why aren't y'all doing it anymore? And they're like, well, I had to get a job, I had to do something else. And then I realized by doing that job, oh, you mean I could be home and spend time with the ones I love, and I could,
Health
you
insurance.
know, right, exactly, and have insurance and not eat shit gas station food every 5 seconds, you know. So it's been, it's interesting. So yeah, I think post COVID, you really have to admire the bands that are doing it on the road, and the ones that are still doing it. Because for like good examples tonight, I'm going to go see. We got a tour with a band, with Fatso Jets in this past 6 weeks, right, in Europe, and they brought along a guy named Sean Wheeler. If you don't know who he is, look him up.
That's really familiar. Why is it? Why am I thinking this?
He's in a band called. He's had a punk band for a long time called Throw Rag, and he's been all over the place. This guy has done everything. I'm sitting there, we're literally playing shows in Germany, and some band played prior, and he's like, I'm on their record. Oh wow! And he's like, he's been on everything. He's
Yeah, I'll have to
phenomenal.
look him up because it sounds really, really familiar.
I call him like the desert Tom Waits because he's just like he's amazing. He just but they have a project. So he did some stuff with Fats Jets, and then it morphed in this project called the Rubber Snake Charmers, which is an all improv, really cool project. And he's just kind of making stuff up. He's like a preacher up there, man. He's amazing. But his band Throw Rag is in San Antonio tonight, and I live about 45 minutes to an hour. So we're going. We're gonna go check him out. And he's on tour with the Super Suckers. And the Super Suckers used to be huge, you know.
Yeah.
And he was honest with us, saying like, "Yeah, man, like he's like they're going for broke. Like, no, the days of the tour bus are gone. He's in the
Yeah.
van, and we're trying to make this work." And and you see
I,
it too we've
I have,
toured in the States and in other countries, and States is not a cheap place to tour by any means.
no, I talked to Eddie during right towards the end when he started to get ready to start writing songs again.
Yeah,
You know, and it's a haul, right? And you're
yeah,
writing different albums, and you're really trying to work it. Not to
yeah,
bum people out. It's just I want people to realize, if your artists are out there, drive 45 minutes, drive an hour and a half. You got to
yep,
work tomorrow. I know, but guess what? They have work too when they get done touring because they're not just breaking even. They do it because they love the music.
yeah. They're
So I
waking up
mean,
the crack of dawn to drive 6 hours to do it again somewhere else.
right?
Because
It's time.
a lot of people think too, like, oh, well, you get all this. Like when we were doing in Europe, it's like, oh, how much did you get to see? I'm like, well, like when I went to all these amazing cities, I saw the bar or the venue that we played, because people think like you
Yeah,
get there and you don't just show up. We get there at 4 o'clock in the afternoon to do a load in and a sound check, and then everything else, and then we might have some time to go walk around, maybe, but
for a
that's
couple
about it.
minutes. Right, you got to have
Yeah,
your energy, how you feel if you're sick and the weather. If you're a singer, you got to
yeah,
take your voice. Right. I
yeah.
mean, it's a
But
lot to worry about. It's not complaining, but it is.
it's not complaining either because I
It's
will
an
do it again
awareness.
right
Right.
now.
It's just an awareness that the fans aren't thinking that.
Yeah,
But the bands are really ripping off the fans or anything. It's not. If you're at that level, the
yeah,
bands are hustling for you. So
yep.
just
No,
know that.
and it's the most, but it's also the most humbling thing ever when we played a show in Utrecht, Netherlands, really cool town outside of Amsterdam. And then we drove, you know, all over Germany and played all these shows. But we would see a lot of repeat people. Like
Really,
people saw us 2 and 3 times just on this tour alone, and they would like, and they drive 2 hours to see us. And 2 hours in Europe is a long way. It's not like I live in Texas, so everything's 2 hours away.
it's a
But
Walmart 2 hours for you. 2 hours in Europe is like three countries.
it is like different culture, different language. You have to go through checkpoints, everything, right? So it's really humbling, and it, it it's amazing. It's such a humbling experience because you can be, no matter how tired you get or whatever. It's like, man, there's people here that I remember there'd be nights we're sitting there going, whew, we had a butt kicker, hit traffic. We were in a van for 11 hours. We were two bands in a van together, so it's close quarters, and traffic was beating us down. We'd played a show late the night before, and we're driving to Italy. And we get there, but it's like when we were getting out of the van, like we just went through we just got beat down, went through a battle. But it's like, man, we're about to play in a small town in Italy.
Yeah,
We're just a band from Texas. It's like we're about to play in a small town in Italy. They're feeding us amazing Italian food. Like I'm about to have some delicious Italian beer. I'm like, life is good, man. So there's no complaining about it. It is the greatest and most rewarding thing you can do. Even, I mean, not financially. That's not, if you're
no,
doing
but
it
it's
for
like
that.
being a
Here's the wrong
sailor.
reasons. Yeah.
Uh, I give up props to Juicy Pearl there. Had talked about how they're like sailors.
Oh
Especially like
yeah.
older sailors because
We call ourselves pirates.
pirate. Well, yeah, I'm gonna say
Yeah.
pirates, but nowadays,
Yeah.
Somali, there's all kinds of crazy things in the negative part. But the part is, it
Yeah.
is like
Yeah.
for someone new, and you're not gonna be, the sailors. You weren't like wealthy or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But
Yeah.
you had a
Yeah. Yeah.
lifetime of story. You journeyed the world. You experienced people in life. You like you were rich with like life.
Totally.
Just
Experiences,
yeah,
man. That's what life's all
right.
about.
And a certain amount of money. I mean, yeah, it's great to have insurance and stuff for your family and stuff and pay your bills. That's good, but you don't need to be like $1 billion museum house and go
Yeah.
nowhere.
But yeah, it's a sacrifice that you're always willing to make, but it's also a sacrifice on, like my poor wife who waited at home for 6 weeks while I was gone. Like there's stuff like that it's
Yeah,
tough. But if you're lucky like me, I've got a wife who is supporting everything I do. I mean, you mentioned your wife helping organize guitars. Heck, my wife bought me, somebody's
Yeah.
guitar. She's all about it. So it's been great. But yeah, there's nothing like getting on the road and touring. And with us being fairly new, it was kind of bold to go to Europe. We went last year for the first time, just kind of on a whim. And let's just do it. Uh, we'll probably lose our ass, but let's do it. We broke evens. We're like, let's do this again. And when Fatso Jetson called, you don't say no. And so we were very fortunate. Now we know for sure we'll be making a yearly event of it. Maybe twice a year we're going to try and get over
Wow.
to Europe. It just we feel like we've made so many fans. Like you said, there's no real money in the record sales or anything, right? And so getting out there and selling merch is your only
Huge.
way to make money. But it's actually getting out there and meeting people is the most fun thing for me. I love meeting people.
But
I
Europe is a
love
good place for bands though
energy.
to make money.
It,
Like a lot of people, there's a lot of artists, especially in your genre, that can make full careers and not do any
yeah,
touring in the U.S. actually, because the bands aren't as big in the U.S.
right.
And I don't know if that's the grass is greener on their side. It feels it's more exotic. Some people like the desert rock over in Europe, and everyone likes European
It's
metal. I can't even say because no one really supports the European metal over here either. So
yeah,
it's
it's
kind of
it's
weird that
weird, right?
no one really supports
And
much over here actually.
yeah, exactly. But
Sorry
but and
guys, sorry
also
everyone.
us being American for
Right.
whatever reason, like people will tell us, like, yeah, we came down here because we heard you guys are from Texas to come check you out. They
Feels
never
more
heard us,
authentic,
right?
right? It feels more
Yeah,
authentic. Like you
they
said,
respected the fact that we had traveled that far
right?
to go, which is really cool.
Right.
But
What are they bringing different than what my neighbor's bringing down to the pub tonight?
right, exactly. And there was a lot of that. Like people, we have promoters tell us all the time too, like, oh, we're happy to book an American band when they contact us because it's like, people will come out to check it out. There's just something about in Europe, especially Germany. There's just a
Yes,
scene. Metal is not dead. Like that's the thing still. So people of all ages, of all genders, are going to see a metal show in Germany of someone they've never heard of. It's just a thing that they do. And as a band, the hospitality over there is totally different. They they usually the accommodations are included. They're gonna feed us. They're gonna give us drink beer and usually and beverages and stuff. Where like in the States, it's like, all right, so uh, we close at midnight. Here's your 2 drink tickets. Get off the stage and get out of here. Not
yeah,
everywhere, but I'm saying generalizing, it can be that way, and so it's different. It's not deterring us from touring in the U.S. We
right.
we start
No,
a
but it is. But they
starting
don't set
starting
you
a
up.
tour in another week. At the end of this month, we're going to tour. We're going to do a brewery and dive tour. We're going to play primarily breweries and taste as much delicious beer as we can along the way. And actually, going to film a documentary about it. It's going to be pretty cool.
That'd be cool. One of the things, and because we jumped around a little bit, so people know you guys have a new split out, but and split outs are great because it's a family thing. So it's like you, if you like this music, you like this music. It's not like you're getting like Deep Purple split, and like the next band is actually a copy of Deep Purple, like in the '80s. This is
Yeah, yeah,
actually,
yeah.
and I love Deep Purple. I'm saying you wouldn't do that. That wouldn't make sense. But this is like when if you like this band, you like this band, even though they sound totally different.
Correct.
Yeah, and that's from telling people that they like that because that's how it turns into music. But it's weird in a family type of musical gene.
Hmm.
But you guys got together really fast. If we could just touch on that in the time we have left,
Cool.
because like you guys really fast. I know you guys probably were in all billion bands for a million years doing other stuff. This just happened to be the one band that just lit on fire, probably the fastest.
Yeah, it's been a ride, and I don't. There's really no way to define it. Like I don't know exactly. Like I have a lot of people and other bands that are like starting out. But man, how did you guys? How are you guys touring Europe? How are you guys playing this festival? There's really no secret to it. I think you obviously have to deliver a pretty good product, and I'm very lucky as a front man that I've got 3 beasts playing behind me with me on this on stage. They're incredible musicians, and I think that there's no real secret other than the fact that we are not afraid to work. Like for example, we're going to get on the road. We're going to play. We're going to play that crappy venue in front of 8 people because it's what we love to do,
Yeah,
and then we we're fortunate to network with bands like I mentioned, Sasquatch and Fatso Jetson and different bands and now we've become good friends with a bunch of bands we truly respect overseas, like Dozer and Greenleaf and Lowrider and bands like that that were and a band called Galpa that if you haven't heard, check them out. We're all talking about playing shows together overseas. We're just like, man, how's this happening? I don't know. We're just gonna keep riding it until people are sick of hearing us, and so we're just going with it. And we I feel like I feel like our live show is really really fun.
Hmm.
I think we put on a pretty good show live, and I think that's what's kind of like. I think it's why we like playing live so much because we love it. We enjoy it, and I think people see that and they respect that, and then um, we just keep getting asked to come back and play different places, and we're fortunate enough to say yes a lot because we have the time to be able to do it. Or really, what we do is we make time,
Yeah.
and just I don't know. There's no really recipe for it, but the rise has been good, and it's actually growing and growing. I think we played some big festivals this past year that put us in front of several thousand people at one time, and the feedback we got was phenomenal, and we're ready to go back and do different things like that again. And now we're getting calls about certain shows here in the states too, which is great. And we got back from tour and we were right in the studio. We just recorded another record. We didn't rap, but we finished about 90% of it a few
A full
days
record?
ago, and
Full record?
full record, full length. Yeah, full length
What,
record.
what are you looking
We're gonna
for?
have too much music again.
What are you looking
Do
for a
what?
release? What are you looking for a release?
Uh, Perfect world. Music world isn't perfect, but we're thinking uh
Third quarter?
spring, early summer 2024.
Okay. Wow.
And
I
so
figured
what
you
like
guys would be
I
pushing it for Christmas or fourth
yeah,
quarter.
no, we're gonna have it. We'd like to have it that because we're gonna do another tour, a Europe tour again next year. But we also have plans to do. We're gonna do an acoustic record.
Yeah.
Basically, we paying homage to our live and like basically it's gonna be live and unplugged, like the old bands that we really respected, like Alice in Chains, Stone Temple
Yeah.
Pilots. Those bands used to do, and we're gonna do one inside a cave. It's gonna be really cool here in Texas, and we're going to record it live, and that's going to be released ideally this year. So we couldn't release, so looks like we'll push the full length back until the early 2024.
That's interesting. And somebody just recording. The idea of recording in a cave could be almost. It sounds cool from the outside, but it sounds like it could be a nightmare of containing the echo and the reverb. Like,
it could very well be, except that I toured this cave. I was just there with my wife. We're just checking it out, and there's this big open room, and it's called Longhorn Caverns. It's just north of Austin, and they were like, "Yeah, this used to be a speakeasy back in Prohibition days. People would sneak in here, and they'd have bands play." And I was like, "Oh, cool!" I was like, and I'm sitting there going, "Hello," and hearing the reverb and stuff. Like, wow, it sounds great in here. And like, yeah, you could. People rent it out for like weddings and parties, and I just went light bulb, and so we're gonna rent it out to play a show.
that's awesome. I think it's a
Yeah,
real good idea. So
something
the plan
unique. I
is,
think it'll be fun.
so you're gonna try to sneak it out between albums before your next album. Is that your
Yeah, we'll
thought?
put that up between because it'll be acoustic versions of our first record, Secrets of the Black Moon,
Okay.
and maybe some songs from the split as well, and probably some new stuff that we have acoustically that we'll do.
Oh, that's good. So actually, so people that are new to you, there's a lot of stuff coming. There's a new. You can listen to the first album, which is not that old. It's just a year or two ago. The
Right,
split, which is
2021
right, the split that has 3 songs on it. Acoustic
just
album,
came
which
out.
newer versions will be coming out hopefully around Christmas. It's just not that far away. And then before you know it, next year, another album.
Yeah,
So you
that's the
guys are
plan.
going strong. It's good because I mean, you guys get talent and everything. It's all about sometimes it's just who you are, luck, combination, your sound. It's like a lot of unknown factors. You
Yeah,
guys are hitting it while it's iron's hot. I mean, you guys, I don't know. It's awesome. You guys got propelled fast.
thank you, and it's really exciting right now because, like I said, we are fairly new. Anybody who's in a band understands that 2.5 years is not really anything.
No.
And we've kind of hit our groove as to who we are, and we understand each other better. First record that we wrote essentially was the guitar player and I writing that record. We had been playing with previous members, and it wasn't working out. And then I moved, and we were 3 hours apart from each other, and he would kind of send me a riff, and I would put a vocal melody back. We kind of cut it up, and then we
Yeah.
literally kind of hired our drummer and got a buddy of mine to play bass for the record, and the drummer was like I dig this. We're all in. And then we got our guitar player's daughter. And so this record we have right now is the first record where we feel like we wrote in the room together. Nobody wrote it in front of a computer, and the energy is just, oh, it's great. We just recorded it live, no click tracks, no punch ins. We were pretty tight from coming off the tour, so we were like, hey, we're gonna record this. We want it to sound as much as we sound like live as possible, and big drum sounds and big. We're very excited
Very
about
happy.
it. And so
It seems like you
yeah,
guys are coming in hot. I was on social media. I was reading it on Instagram. You guys are sharing parts of it. And there's clips of the tour on YouTube up there, sounding good. So it's, there's a lot of stuff out there right now. Where can
yeah.
people reach you guys? Is it usually better to go to your website?
Yeah, so we do have a website, hidersofqueen.com. It's cool. It kind of has everything that's about everything Hiders of Queen involved on there. I will say that we update that every month or a couple weeks or so. So Instagram and Facebook, that has like the day to day, what's
Yeah.
going on, stuff like that for sure.
But the
Has
links for everything's on there though on the web. If you go to the website, you can go everywhere else from there.
everywhere. Yeah, basically, what's good about the website. It has everything: our YouTube links, our music links, our
Right.
Instagram, our Facebook, everything.
Tour
Merch,
information,
everything. Tour,
merch. You can say merch.
yeah,
Yeah. So
everything. It's all there.
that'll be the link. That's the link people see underneath the show. You click on that, and then from there you guys can have fun, go down the rabbit hole yourselves. But
Awesome, yeah.
the link will be there. I want to thank
Yeah,
you for being on the show, man. It's awesome.
man, I really appreciate you having me. I hope to be on again at some point.
Yeah,
We can talk
yeah.
about the
I want to hear the
continued
new album.
rise or something.
I want to hear the album. We can do the acoustic. So let me know. You got my email. We'll connect.
Sounds like a plan, man. I
We'll
really
talk.
appreciate it.
All right, man. Thank you. You have a good day.